Anybody? Sometimes.
But
I
we
think it's
should
really
every day.
important. You should always start with something. Get your gears grinding by starting with something positive. Get up, Google something. If you have a question or something about something, you have a dream or something, I always tell everybody, Google whatever it is that you're thinking about it and look for an inspirational quote based off of what you're thinking off of that moment. So there's a lot to learn. If you believe in the power of knowledge and wisdom, you can bring about change in the universe. That's a saying that I tell everybody because I'm a firm believer that there is something that everybody knows in this room that is valuable to the next person. The person that's sitting next to you, the person watching, and the people that we meet on a day-to-day basis. Next is a quote, wisdom and peace come when you start believing in the life that Creator intended for you, and that's from Geronimo. Okay. Did you know, this is the first slide that we're going to go over, that Alaskan Natives and American Indian populations represent 1.1% of the total U.S. population, and that's statistics coming from the U.S. Census Bureau. In 2017, American Indians and Alaskan Natives had the highest unemployment rate among Americans at 7.8% compared to the national average of 4.4%. And that again is coming from Bureau of Labor and Statistics. In 2012, the average area median income for Alaskan Natives and American Indians was $49,906 compared to the national average of $71,664. And that's coming from the U.S. Department of Health and Minorities and the U.S. Health Minorities. And then Native American women make only 59 cents per every dollar that a white male in America makes. And that's coming from the Global Citizen. So I like to share statistics about this because a lot of the times when we're talking about Indigenous communities, there's a lot of border towns that surround us, right? Like where we're at. Taos Pueblo is not within the inner city. So a lot of the times when you go to the Taos community, like I'm from Navajo and we've got to drive about a good 45 minutes to get from the Window Rock community to the Gallup community. Anybody that's living within that area has to drive about 2 hours. Taos isn't too far, but at the same rate, Taos Pueblo does have their own tribal leadership. They do have their own professional buildings that they do have there where they employ their tribal community members. And when they're working on tribal initiatives, their pay rate is always going to be different than what the area median income for inner city is. And that's just based off of an economist's idea of what that cost of living should be there in that community based off of their population and the individuals that they have there. Anybody have any questions about any of the statistics that we went over? Okay, next is the wealth gap on Indian country. How many of you guys know about wealth gaps? Anybody experience anything or have any general knowledge about what wealth gaps are? Yes.
There's gender and race and so like how long it takes within a year for someone to reach the same like wages that a white man paid.
The capacity, yes. Okay, so on a national scale, for every $1 that a white person has, a Native American person has 8 cents. So that represents a 92% racial wealth gap. And that's a very big gap when it comes to, asset and wealth building. One of the two main questions that I get asked anywhere I go, whether it's on a national level, state level, or tribal level, or even smaller communities, smaller groups, we talk about what asset and wealth building are. And I like to always bring the elephant in the room because in my mind, I'm like, what individual can actually achieve asset and wealth building strategies when they're only making 8 cents per every dollar that anybody else has? That's very difficult. So that's where the education comes into play. Okay, history through a Native lens. So I like to go over this portion of it just to give everybody a bird's eye view of what tribal communities deal with. Tribal independence era began prior to 1491. Epidemic slavery, massacre, and indigenous resistance was between 1492 and 1599. Invasion from all directions, stolen lands, and stolen people was 1600 to 1699. Strategic alliance and broken treaties, which we still see alive and well today, 1700 to 1799. Sovereignty era nation ends in 1800 to 1849. And then the Indian Removal Act, and the era begins in 1828, which is 1849. And these impacts are still affecting us to date. If you talk to a lot of tribal community members that are out there, I've got aunts, uncles, I've got grandparents that I talk to on a day-to-day basis. Even a lot of my clients that I serve in tribal communities that talk about how they were affected from the boarding school era, how they were removed from their homes and they were sent from, can you imagine a small tribal community here in New Mexico to Oklahoma or California, Colorado, from several states over, being as young as 5 years old. and not ever having the choice of, can I call home? Can we get a bus ticket to go back home? Can we get a train? Those were not options that they had then. So these are a lot of things that we like to talk about to bring, some understanding to how do tribal communities differentiate from inner city and urban communities? And what were some of the things that had happened that impact the trust that's there? So we deal with a lot of distrust that's in tribal communities when it comes to why don't they want to do business with the inner city? Why don't they want to allow larger businesses to come into their tribal communities? Why don't they want a Walmart? Why don't they want banks? Why don't they want all of these different elevators to expand in these tribal communities? It goes back to our history, okay? Reservation era begins in 1850 to 1878. Tribal communities are looked at as reservations. I grew up on one where we have a lack of access to water, internet, electric. Solar panels don't even work. I will tell you now, the batteries on the solar panels continue to give out on the small unit that we have that's supposed to continue to keep a refrigerator going, even just a small refrigerator. There's not enough energy that goes through. NTUA is the servicer that provides it to the largest federally recognized tribe, which is Navajo, where I'm at. And a lot of their units will give out. And then we end up having to wait about a month or 2 months because NTUA is so small. They don't have enough employees to get out into these rural communities to make those repairs, replace those batteries and whatnot. So I know that when we're thinking, well, if you live in a rural community, why not just get solar panels? Again, that wealth gap doesn't allow you to spend thousands on, solar panels that are going to go out. And then if they do fault on you, how long is it going to take for somebody to come out to that rural community and then repair it? Boarding school era and allotment eras, 1879 to 1933. Indian New Deal and tribal determination and urban relocation is between 1934 and 1967. And then the Indian self-determination and governments era is between 1968 to present. And that's where tribes are granted greater authority to manage local governments and communities. And that is the Native American resistance movements. They continue to fight for rights, land, and healing. I think that that's very important to know and understand because even now we're still fighting for rights. And this goes back to asset and wealth building. Water, we had our Navajo Nation president just recently go to DC and we finally got awarded water rights just last week out in DC. So that's like a small little win for us in Navajo. But it wasn't too long ago. And we still have boarding schools. A lot of folks still don't know that there are still boarding schools that are active, that are out there, that are throughout the Navajo reservation. And the main reason for this is because statistics for the state of New Mexico will tell you that 75% of our roads in New Mexico are still not paved. I think that there's a win for us in that, but there's also a fault because 75% of our roads being not paved tell us that we're doing a really good job at cultural preservation. We're doing a really good job at preserving the state of New Mexico. But the downfall on that as well is that because of that, and because we're trying to keep that autonomy in tribal communities and make sure that we are able to preserve our language, our culture, and our heritage, the fault on that is we have to send our children to areas where there is access to electric, running water, and resources for them to get a decent education so that they're able to thrive in communities and they're able to make an impact in the communities that they're living in. Okay, Indian New Deal Act is tribal termination and urban. Oh, we already went over all of that. Sorry. Okay, so American Indians do not benefit success or building wealth from these acts. For example, back in 1862, the American Homestead Act granted more than 270 million acres of land to private citizens and displaced Native people from their own lands. While the program was open to people of all races, it overwhelmingly benefited white Americans. Today, the wealth of more than 46 million adults in the US can track back to this policy. And this is a very big subject for me, mainly because I'm Navajo, and back where we're at, we're living on tribal trusts and allotted lands, so we can achieve permanent belonging. If I were to go to Wells Fargo, US Bank, or Charles Schwab, any of the banks that you would know around here. And I walk in there and I tell them, hey, my credit score is a 780. I have down payment to where I can apply for conventional lending. My debt to income ratio is where it needs to be. I have the affordability to get a mortgage and I want to do a construction loan so that I could build a home. and they tell me that I pre-qualify for a home that's a $560,000 home, they're sitting down with me and they're talking about how they want to work with me on that. And then they say, okay, well, where do you want to build this? And I tell them, well, I live in Manuelito and I have a home site lease there. And then they're going to stop and they're going to say, wait, I'm sorry, but we don't understand how we would be able to make that work, because part of the loan that we're going to give you requires us to use that land as collateral, and you don't own the land. The US government owns the land. So because of that, we're not going to be able to move forward with you and give you that mortgage loan that you're looking for. We're very sorry, but you're going to have to go to a different outlet to achieve permanent belonging or to get your home built, but we're not going to be able to assist you. The modern term for that is redlining. It's against the law. But because banks don't acknowledge the way that the land status is in tribal communities, and that's all across where we're at. Even right now, where we're talking about Taos, it's a checkerboard area, so it's still considered tribal trust. So tribes that live in those areas are only able to be there, but we can't even achieve permanent belonging to where we could say this is where we're going to permanently be, and no one's going to make us leave. So that's a very big impactor all over again. While homeownership and wealth building impacts generations, a predominant number of American Indians and Alaskan Natives still have to live in subsidized housing throughout tribal communities. And that comes from tribal housing authorities or in secondhand or third-hand trailer houses. So if you drive through a lot of these communities, you probably wonder why there's only mobile homes that are there. Those are the only structures that they could really get put there, because we're told that we can't put anything permanently there, because it's just a lease. All we're doing is leasing that property from the US government. And at the same rate, a lot of the banks will only make a loan for a mortgage through mobile home lenders. So not anything when it comes to an actual bank to build a structure. It hasn't happened yet. Though a lot of the loan products that are out there that are through the government, like the Section 184 and other products that are out there for tribal communities through the USDA, they're 100% guarantee, which means that if a bank were to give a tribal community member that full amount of money to structure that home and build a home and give them a mortgage, if that person were to default, the federal government would then step in and purchase that home. But because banks say, okay, that's too risky, there's a lot of red tape there, we don't understand it, we're not going to do it. So that's another thing. Any question on anything we've gone over so far? Okay. So what can we do to break systemic traumas and bring holistic healing to our tribal communities? I'm an avid believer that there's always a resolve in all of it. And even though that system is not set up for us in any community we're at, not just tribal communities, but anywhere we are, there's always an outlet. But it goes back into what are we willing to do as an individual? What are we willing to do to make and change that narrative for ourselves? Okay. How many of you in here believe that you are an entrepreneur? We have an entrepreneurial mindset? No, not everybody. I'm a firm believer that everybody is. And I could sell everybody on this. I could sell everybody. And the reason being is because I'm going to say there's something that you're good at. Again, just like I said earlier, there's something that you're really good at that nobody else is. Back where I'm from, for instance, I'll give you an example. There's a gal that sells over in the San Benito and Port of Entry. She gets there at 5 o'clock every morning and she sells burritos. And she's been selling there for 18 years. She made the cover of the Navajo Times recently and they did a story on her. And she sells her burritos for $8 each, but people would rather go to her than go to the local McDonald's that's there, because there's not very many stores that are out there on the tribal communities. So she's selling out. Before 8 o'clock comes, she's sold out. She's been doing it for 18 years. She's successful. She's thriving. She gets out there in a big truck. That whole thing is full of her ice coolers and everything, and she's selling out. And we've got to figure out ways to make this happen. How many of you guys are really good at babysitting?
Babysitting?
Anybody? Yeah, babysitting even. Charge a price. How many of you guys are good at cleaning? My daughter charges me to clean the house, or I tell her grandma needs her house clean. You know, she said $30 for the dishes, 20 for the living room. The restroom looks really bad. That's $60, you know, so she's walking around. There's something that you have to offer that you could put a price tag on. And yeah, there you go. Free labor. But in my mind, there's something for us to expand on. And now with the way that things are going and the way that society is, there's a lot that you could do. There's house cleaning, there's yard work, you know, the gals in our communities, they're very artistic. We've got some that can sew. A lot of my tribal dresses that I do wear to a lot of the events, the tiered dresses, I get them made locally. The gal that I helped do her EIN and help everything get going. She's been successful in opening a brick and mortar. So she's set up in Window Rock. She's successful selling her dresses now. About a year and a half ago, I met her at an event and she says, I don't know what to do or where to start. I said, well, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it. Go ahead. We're all sovereign nations, but to say that we own that land, no, we don't. Once again, it goes back to tribal government. They're not separate. What they do let us do is they allow us to decide how we want to structure our policies and the services we bring to our clients. So it's not necessarily that we make our own rules and our own laws. We do still have to align with a lot of the things that the government wants, because a lot of the funding that goes to tribal communities comes from the government, like any other community. We have a healthcare system. The Taos Pueblo is the same. They have permanent foundations. That's a home site leasing process as well. There are home site leasing processes, and then there's checkerboard areas where they do have, but a lot of the times, if you see a structure that's built and it's a community that's built, again, it goes back to the tribal housing authorities that are operating those units that are there. So those people pay money back to the Taos Pueblo for them to occupy those units. So that's how a lot of those work, because the Navajo Nation has them as well, like the housing units they have, they're put there by the federal government. So the federal government owns that land. The federal government is able to come in like they are with any other, you go into a city and you go to an apartment, they ask you how much income you make, right? It's income based because the government, the HUD puts money into that so that they can say, okay, this is what that area medium income limit is for you to be in that unit. This is how much you'll pay. So all of it goes back federal funding all over again.
So what's the process like? So I don't know if you've heard, but there's gonna be a major hotel chain moving into Denver. How does that?
The major hotel chains, everything that they are bringing, there is a certain portion of it that goes back to the tribe. But again, they still pay taxes. They still have to pay for the overhead. They are able to generate their own revenue. But when it comes from funding that you're getting from the federal government, there's always it's stipulated. Is it grant funding? Is it a loan? So there's always more that goes into that when it becomes, okay, what is the status of that deal that they are doing? And then it goes back into the Pueblo to say, this is what more development we're going to do. This is how we're going to sustain our community. And a lot of it goes back into program development, just like what we know. A lot of anything that we're doing, especially if it's nonprofit, it doesn't mean that you're out there trying to make anything off of it. You're just trying to self-sustain that program so you continue to offer what you're offering without it being a big benefit to people that are around that area. So it's just to self-sustain and make it available. Okay. Okay. Encouraging entrepreneurial ecosystems so that they could provide economic opportunities that will allow tribal community members to work from their homelands while being close to their families, cultural ceremonies and traditions, develop sustainable tribal economics and entrepreneurial ecosystems. This is just what I was talking about earlier. We got a lot of folks that are out there that live in tribal communities that are really good at making jewelry, making belts, making shirts, earrings, hair ties. There's an array of things that they do create. Bison Star, if you're familiar with them, they've got their own shampoo, their lotions, chapsticks, what have you. So it's all a holistic approach. I'm a rancher, I'm a farmer. So there's a lot that I do to sustain myself outside of the job that I do have. And it's just something that I learned growing up. It was just a way of life of where I had to learn how to herd sheep because we butchered them. And then when we sheared them, we would use that wool to turn around and generate clothing, make rugs, sell that. Then at the same time, artistry. We were introduced to silver and turquoise back in the 1800s. That was what the government turned around and said, okay, we'll trade with them. We'll trade this with them so that we can have horses, so that we can have cows, so that we can have sheep. And then we started to learn it's cultivation. So I think that there's a constant process and it's for everybody. Again, everybody in here is really good at something. So you want to be comfortable with being around your family, being around who you know. And in order to do that and sustain yourself, I think it's really important to have those ecosystems like what the Hive has here. It would be really, really nice to have this all over tribal communities to where somebody could come in and say, okay, hey, Rose, let me use your laptop. Let me use this thinking space. You know, you have internet access here. You have a printer. You have a copy machine. There's so much that they could get done just being in a small ecosystem such as what you guys have here. And then keeping wealth within our rural communities instead of investing it into border towns. This is something that I'm very big on. Why? Because a lot of the times when tribal community members do get paid, they are working in city. Like a lot of folks will probably come in from Taos and they work at Walmart, or they're working at the Home Depot or Big Five, or they're working over at O'Reilly's, wherever. And there is no grocery store back in Taos. There is no large grocery store for them. So what do? They end up coming back in, spending it here. So I like to encourage folks, if they can at all. Back in Window Rock, they do have 2 grocery stores and they are expanding. So I always tell folks, start making the demands, start making a demand of your tribal leaders to say, allow us to have more resources here. And it goes back to sovereignty. Practice our sovereignty by, encouraging more farmers, encouraging more folks that are in agriculture, encourage more folks that are out there that are raising cattle and whatnot to get back to their roots so that we have things where we could sustain our own communities. And then bringing nutritional and cultural foods to our own people, from our own people, through sustainable products harvested locally. That's something that we're starting to do. Good example is going to be Biddy Baby Foods. You guys have probably heard of Zach before. Biddy Baby Foods. In Navajo, it means, like, Biddy means chubby. So the chubby baby basically. Yes, they've been established, yes, Zach, at the event that we had. Yeah, and they're doing very well. They've actually got their food products that are more cultural relevant for our children, such as the blue corn mush, kneel down bread, all of the stuff that we're used to, because we do have our own foods that we do eat. I grow white corn, same thing, and you're able to make kneel down bread, steamed corn. We dry it out. We use it during the winter seasons and the colder seasons to make stews. There's just so many things that we rely on. So it's just, again, my main thought to my tribal community members is always telling them, let's sustain ourselves by, getting that green thumb. Let's get going through that. And then we begin to let knowledge be our medicine. That's the biggest thing in all of this, right? We're educating ourselves on what we do and don't know, and then how we're going to take what we learn anywhere we're going and use that as our beacon of hope to say, okay, this is how I'm going to move forward. This is what I'm going to share with so-and-so so that I know that it does impact our community. Or maybe I could be a really good ally to somebody that's out there that needs a little bit of encouragement, that might need some insight on how to do these things. Sit down with them and give
I'm
them.
curious about the brand. What's the brand's name again?
Biddy Baby Foods. I can
And
email
where-
it to you. Their farm is out there in Shiprock. Manufacturing, I believe that they're still working on a little issues pertaining to that. And I think that that's going back to, the Gallup location. The Gallup pantry is where they're packaging out of. Is there? Yes. Yes. Definitely. And then what can I do today that will help me tomorrow? Money issues are universal. It's not just tribal communities. I think that money issues are universal. So what we're going to do now is evaluate our relationship with money in order to be ready for future financial decisions. Next is establish personal financial goals in order to commit to taking action on ideas that we've selected to work on. Learn debt reduction techniques that reduce the burden and stress caused by debt. Understanding our credit and ways to improve our credit, and then discovering information and tools for spending and saving wisely. How many of you know your credit score? Is it good? It's fair. Okay. And how many of us have a savings account? Savings account set up? We have savings goals. Okay. Yeah, good. So they start telling us now, these economists are telling us that we should have already started at our retirement account investments when you're 20, 18 even. They're saying that that's when you should start, to where by the time you're ready to retire, you'll have sustainability and you'll be fine. So there's so much information and learn out there all over again. Okay, so let's determine our feelings about money and budgeting by being honest with ourselves. How many of us can say that we spend too much money on impulse? All right. There's a Dutch Brothers in town. Everybody would be there. If not, then it's Starbucks. Then all of a sudden we want to go to Taco Bell because they've seen their new commercial, or the app is sending you notifications for your free fries at McDonald's and whatnot. And pretty soon we're out there spending money that we know we shouldn't be spending. Okay, next, how many of us wish we had more money? What are we doing to make sure that we have more money? Are we letting our entrepreneurial mindset kick in to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to charge for babysitting. My neighbors have their yard is a mess. I'm going to go over, I'm going to offer my abilities in the evening. Or maybe there's something that you're really good at. You're going to help somebody with their homework. You're going to help somebody, tow some vehicles away. Maybe you're really good at something, painting. You're an artist, tell them, hey, you know what? I seen a picture in your living room. It would be so awesome if you just let me replicate it. Have a hard copy for yourself to where you turn around and offer what you have to, your abilities, your skills and your abilities, put a price tag on it. And then how many of us in here have credit cards? How many of us use them when we know we shouldn't be using them? Right? My prime example of that is Victoria's Secret gets you every time, us ladies in here. You get that notice, right? And it tells you get a $25 discount off of a $50 purchase or a $100 purchase, or you turn around, you get free shipping, or Amazon goes and tells you that. And then the men, it's Home Depot or, one of the, the tool stores or something sends you a notice or something. And then you're there, you're using your credit cards. And then if you use, how many of you know that if you use anything above 25% of your credit card, that it'll bring your credit score down anywhere from about 16 points to 30 points?
What do you mean over 25%?
Okay, let's say that you have a credit limit amount of $3,000. And then you went into the store and you made a purchase of $2,600. You used about 56% of what that credit usage amount is, right? And so about 17 days later, you get a notification from TransUnion and it says that your score dropped 26 points because you used more than half of what that limit amount was. Okay, so that affects your credit score. So anytime you're using your credit cards, the ideal way to use a credit card is to say, okay, I'm using it minimally. And if I use an excess amount of it within my next pay period, within 2 weeks, if you get paid every 2 weeks or if you get paid weekly, I'm going to bring that balance all the way back down under 25%, not 35%. 35% is still really high. They tell you that that's the suggested amount, but even 25%, it can impact your score by about 26 points and above. So I teach this, and believe me, I just saw my score go down 26 points because I was a little bit above. I paid the day before thinking that I would be okay. It didn't report in time and I seen it drop 26 points and I was like, what is this? I was so upset. I was like, what is going on? But it didn't give a 24-hour time period enough for the reporting period. And then to add to that, how many of you guys have TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian or Credit Karma or Credit Sesame on your phone? Those are apps that you could use to where you'll get a notification every month and it doesn't charge you. You don't get charged for looking at your own credit score with those apps, okay? What you could do is you could download one of those apps and it'll give you notifications to say, this is where your credit score is at. If you don't have a credit card and you're trying to figure out how can I start my credit, go to the bank, a credit union preferably. If you're going to open a checking account, go with a credit union. Credit unions are more able to help you in a way that larger name banks can't. Why? Because when you're a credit union member, they're not looking at traditional lending standards. They're looking at relationship-based practices that they do make. They're more flexible with you. They're more willing to give you a line of credit. A secured line of credit is what you want to go for. If you don't have a credit card and you're trying to say, okay, how do I start my credit? My credit score, I don't know what it is. Go into your bank, talk to a banker at your credit union and say, I went to a financial literacy class today and they told me to ask questions about a secured line of credit. That way, I don't ruin my credit. This is a line of credit with my bank. That way, when you're making your transfers, it's easier for you to transfer from your online banking to that credit card, right? You see it anytime you open your app. Secured line of credit. Secured line of credit is really good. And then how many of us could say that we use coupons when we watch for sales? The Safeway app is going to be your best friend. A few things to go along with your couponing is to remember that the worst times to shop. How many of you guys hear about Black Friday? How many of you guys have gone Black Friday shopping? Because we see really good deals, right? TVs, game boxes, iPhones, any and everything will go on sale on Black Friday. It's not necessarily beneficial for you only because staying in the black for a corporation means that they're making more money. And when they're in the red, they're not making enough money. So their idea when they're doing those sales is to get back in the black. Same thing every month on the 1st, the 3rd, the 15th. What happens? Everybody in the US is getting their retirement. They're getting their Social Security income. They're getting their fixed income. So what does everybody in the corporate world do?
Advertise.
Skyrocket the prices. Nothing is on sale. You go to the grocery store, bread is back up to about $7.99. Last week, it was only $1.99 for your Just For You coupons. Milk was like, what, $1.99 for a gallon? It went back up to $5. Carton of eggs was $1.49 with your Just For You. It went back up to $5. So these are things to know. And then the same rate, go online, Procter and Gamble. They're one of the largest names that are out there. You can print their coupons and you can use them anywhere where those Procter and Gamble items are sold. Procter and Gamble items are your tissue, dish soap, detergent, any and everything is Procter and Gamble. Okay. And how many of us can say that our friends and family often talk us into spending money that we wish we didn't spend? There's always that one person every Friday that messages you, right? And they're like, hey, you want to go meet up? And then they don't tell you that they're broke. And then when you finally show up, they're your broke best friend. So you can't let them not, you can't let them not eat with you. You can't not offer them, hey, let's go to the movies, or I got it. Don't worry about it. We want to be that nice person, right? Right?
Stop being so nice.
Yeah. I've got a few friends and family members that were like that. And I always tell people, this is the best approach. Block them. Block them until Monday. Monday comes, unblock them, and you're back in your safe zone because you're working Monday through Friday again. Friday comes, block them again. Block them until you know they have money or a job. Okay. Next is, how many of us can say that we're really good at paying our bills on time? We know when the credit card payments due. We know when we have to pay our portion of the rent. We know when we got to make sure that we're helping with utilities and whatnot. Okay. Just get with it. And if it helps, I always tell everybody, write it down. The best way for you to really get excited about things and understand things and want to do things is when you get a piece of paper, or get yourself a whiteboard like what you see over there, get yourself, or put it in your phone. Things are so accessible right now. Yes, there you go. And then how many of us can say that we don't have control over our money? We're just really bad at it. We just don't know what to do. Come see me. We do one-on-one coaching for technical assistance hours, and we do offer that to all of our clients. If you have a specific unique situation that you just have a lot of questions about and you feel more comfortable talking about it one-on-one, not in a group setting, our organization, Southwest Native Assets Coalition, does offer extensive one-on-one counseling for individuals for housing stability, which can mean home ownership, renting. It could mean your financial situation, credit. And then how many of us can say that we're open to new ideas? That's why we're all here, right? We want to learn something that we're going to take away from today's session and say, this is how I'm going to implement this going forward. And then how many of us can say that we're willing to change how we're handling our money? We want it to go to work for us, right? That's where all of the savings information is going to be good for us. Okay, so our attitude about money is guided by our values, and our values are beliefs that make up who we are. Our values around money come in whole or in part from messages that we received growing up from family, friends, community, church, just about anywhere you go. We speculate, right? How many of us are speculators? We go somewhere and we're just like, that don't look right. Or we hear something and all of a sudden our antennas go up and we're listening to all of it. And we're just sitting there nodding our head. So any and everything could be a learning process for you. It's just how you're going to take that. So our next portion, again, I want some feedback, is what messages about money did you receive growing up?
My parents were very strict on money.
Saved, right? Paid for what they needed to?
Look at the religions. I think my dad would give my mom $10 a week.
Yeah. Minimum wage back then, and I can remember looking at check stubs for my aunts and uncles. They were like $1.32 an hour.
But frugal.
Mm-hmm.
Very. And
what was your message about money?
Use too much. Was another.
Okay, so how many of you guys have heard about the Capital One and Discover Card merger that's going to be happening pretty soon? It's a national deal right now. Senate's talking about it. The news is not going to tell you about it. TikTok's not going to tell you about it. Nobody's going to tell you about it. Why? Because they're interest-based companies. Capital One and Discover, when they do their merger, how many of you guys look at your bank cards to see who that card was issued from? It's Discover or Capital One, right? What happens anytime you use your debit card? Anybody notice lately that there's a sign outside the restaurant that says due to an increase in merchant fees, we will now be charging additional amounts. Or, sorry for the inconvenience, but our prices have gone up due to merchant fees. Merchant fees mean that anytime you're using your debit card and you're swiping it, the business gets charged for it. And now the way the businesses are making up for it is by charging the consumer, which is you. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're staying up to date with what's going on in today's society so that we could make a public comment during the housing sessions, or we could get in contact with some leadership that we know in Taos and say, hey, I just went to a financial literacy class today and I learned about the Capital One and Discover merger. Have our senators or anybody, any local leadership made a comment in DC today to make sure that they know that that's going to affect me? Because then I'm going to start paying more money to my bank. My bank's going to start charging me $2-3 for a transaction. So yes, yeah, for debit card transactions anymore, anytime you use it. So with my credit union, every month when you use your transaction, your debit card, they forgive you those fees, those merchant fees. So after so many, that's why it's important to go with a credit union. Know what you're paying for. Ask these questions. Do you charge a merchant fee? How much is your merchant fee? And then at the same rate, get used to carrying cash. Because when you're using cash, you can't get charged for your merchant fee. So it's, again, just being mindful of things that are out there. What was your message about money? Mhm. It's convenient. It's convenient. But now we're having to take a step back because, again, technology is failing us significantly because we're not educating ourselves to say, oh, that's what's going on. This is what that meant. And it's even going to affect people that are using food stamps. It's going to affect people that are, our elders. We're always worried about our grandparents, right? We don't want them paying more than what they need to. And they're out there, we're telling them, don't hold money because they're really good at losing money. But then they're getting charged to use their money. So again, what was your message about money? Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Your message. Mhm. How they did that?
Yeah.
So it was like an internal, this is how we do it, but they didn't say, hey, sweetheart, we're going to give you a lesson about money. This is how we do things. Okay. All right. And that's common. Why? Because a lot of us, we've had working class parents who were more, their mindset was to get out there and go to work because they were worried about the bills. They were worried about stability. They were worried about the life that they wanted to give you that they didn't have.
Exactly.
So in the mix of all of that, somehow they forgot to give you a message about money. So it's common. It's not that, it was something that they were just like, oh, I'm not going to tell her I want her to fail. It's just that by this point, they're probably thinking to themselves that our education system was going to get something into play to where we had financial literacy in our classes, right? And then the state of New Mexico went and voted against it and said that they don't even want financial literacy in our classrooms.
Oh.
So again, that's a loss for us because now we're probably figuring out a lot within the past 25 minutes than we've figured out in quite a bit of years, right?
Is that still?
Yes. And so that's what I mean when I say that it's very important for us to get a hold of our local leadership to say, what are we doing? What can we do? I want my brothers and sisters. I want my children. I want folks around me to know more about their finances. I went to a financial. It's not mandatory. It can be taught. It's not mandatory. But then again, what kind of state funding is out there to support financial literacy? Do we ever hear anything about it? No. I'm a firm believer that financial literacy is the core component of health and well-being, economic development, workforce development. It's for sustainability across the board, because if you are stressed out about your finances, it makes you sick physically, right? We're like over there, I can't sleep. Oh my gosh, they're going to shut my phone off tomorrow. They shut my tablet off tomorrow. They're going to repo my couch. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And then at the same time, when we start to stress about things, all of a sudden our head is hurting. We're not eating. It's just affecting us across the board because we're worried about, okay, I can't pay the rent. Are they going to evict me? Utilities are off. We have that going on right now because landlords are out there skyrocketing rent.
It was interesting, Anya, I met your friend of Trash and Treasures, the founder of Seconds,
yes.
Sarah gave you a name.
Mhm.
And her story is amazing. And I just share it because her ability to manage money
Mhm.
one step at a time, allowed her, and it wasn't, I mean, saving the pennies, right? I mean, she opened the door. She bought, I think, a couple of homes,
Mhm.
but hard work. Now, her husband did all the work on them. And I think sometimes our youth and our young adults, they see the cost of homes and everything, but you can do it
Mhm.
if you manage your finances. That story was, and what you're saying is just alignment.
Mhm.
And that was her message, financial literacy.
Mhm.
It's key.
It's just understanding your finances. There are ways to do it. I think it's just taking the approach that you have all taken to sit down and say, okay, what can you help me understand about what
Yeah.
it is I need to do
And now
today for tomorrow? Minimize talk about, okay, the biggest thing about financials is I tell everybody all the time, we have to reward ourselves for how hard we're working, right? That's the other part. Is if you get so caught up in everything that you want to do and you forget to reward number one, you get burnt out, you get tired, and you're like, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to do this anymore if you're not happy. So there's a way to do it, but if you minimize and you save some here, you put this there, then it's really worth it in the end. But it's all conducive to, am I willing to coupon? Am I willing to put more money away? Am I willing to look into other resources that are out there that can help me achieve my savings goals? Because right now I'm a student. So in the eyes of the government, I'm broke. What resources are out there that are able to help me? Don't be afraid to ask those questions, because that supplemented resource that is out there for you is made to where you will sustain yourself the way that you need to, while being able to get by and saying, okay, this is what I could do. And there are banks and programs that are out there that have resources that can help you. So we're going to jump on into all of that here in a moment. But what was your message about money?
We didn't have, I think so I think they also taught me to be good with money, but at the same time, not going to be like this is exactly how we manage your finances.
Mhm.
So I wasn't, so like, I don't know.
They were just careful, but it was again a private discussion, and it
Right.
wasn't something where they sat down. Okay, you see that a lot. What was your message about money? Mhm.
And all money of people,
Mhm.
like for example, for now, basically invest money in like property. Without that property is like something that sort of buying yourself something where was curse.
Have you started to do that? A little? Okay. Okay, as long as you started. So we're talking about messages about money and how we've heard them and what they've impacted us, the ways that they've impacted us. Okay, what's my message about money and how has it impacted me? Okay, you? Mhm.
So it's figuring out. So my brother and I were English and
Mhm.
and it's kind of learned from television.
Self-taught. Okay, so trial and error, that's going to be your biggest teacher again. My grandparents raised me and they were only Navajo speaking. And they didn't have a phone, they didn't have this or that. I grew up in a rural community where the home that we were raised in didn't have electric and running water. We were 22 miles outside of the city limits and then an additional 3 1/4 mile off the county road to where it was a dirt road to get to where we were at. And so anytime we needed water, we hauled water. Electric, we would use a generator, and then if not, then it was kerosene or anything like that. And again, I was taught how to ranch, I was taught how to farm, I was taught how to supplement, how we were going to make up for things that we didn't have in our home. And then they were on fixed income, they got Social Security income. And my message about money came for me in a day at Walmart that I was crying for a pair of boots. I wanted a pair of boots so bad. I was 7 years old, and they kept trying to tell me, we don't have the money. In Navajo, they were trying to tell me, "In peso ya ten," and I was like, no, I want it. So I thought to myself, if I threw myself on the ground, if I cried a little, I was gonna get it, because typically that works, right? I've seen other kids do it and it worked well for them. And then I did it. My grandfather yanked me up and walked me outside to the vehicle. I got to the vehicle, I got whipped, I got sat there and told, now you're not gonna come to town with us. You don't know how to act in public? If this is how you're gonna act, you're not gonna come to town with us anymore. So not only did I not get the boots, I was told I couldn't go into town anymore. And that was the only excitement I had. Because getting to drive by a store when you're living in a rural community, it made you feel normal. You're like excited to see these things, even if you weren't able to get anything. We're just excited to be able to go in somewhere. And so they got paid during the first of the month. We went to a pawn shop because a lot of the times they had to pawn items, the jewelry, in order to get additional money so that we could get groceries, buy propane, pay for whatever it was that we needed to pay for. So we started to go around and they started to show me, this is why we have no money. They had to pay for a truck that was in-house finance because none of these bankers would loan them money because they looked at them as a risk factor because they didn't speak English and because they didn't make a lot of money. They were on fixed income. So again, people that are on fixed income or have low and lower income are looked at as risk factors from any lenders. So they paid an in-house vehicle, $350 a month. That was more than half of my grandfather's check. They went to go pay insurance on the vehicle, which was mandatory with in-house, and that was, you know, another $75. There goes almost about 3/4 of his check. And grandmother paid for groceries. She filled up the vehicle, paid for supplies for silversmithing. By the time we were done, there was $30 that they had combined. Back in the 80s, that was a lot of money. So we sat down at a restaurant, we ate. By the end of all of that, I think we have like $16 left. And we went home, and in my mind, that was my message about money, was this is why we didn't have money. And I felt so bad after that. But that's where child labor started. That's where I started to learn. They were like, okay, now you want stuff? We'll pay you for it, but you're gonna have to help us silversmith. You're gonna be the one responsible for blackening, buffing. You're gonna be responsible for hauling hay. You're gonna help grandpa do this. You know, you're gonna help him chop up wood. You're gonna saw wood. You're gonna do this, that. So that was my message about money. Okay, that was a good message because it carried me to now, to where, you know, I took that to today and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? I still do agriculture. We still have cattle. We sell that whenever we need to supplement our income. We butcher, we do whatever we need to do. We weave rugs, silversmithing. I always do that during the off season for me, which like winter time, so that I can make sure that I have money for Christmas, stuff like that. So there's different messages that we do have. And then there's negative messages, right? Sometimes we saw something negative when we were growing up. I had negative messages about money to where, you know, I seen people that were really reckless with their money, that lost their vehicles, they lost their belongings, they lost their homes. And that was a big red flag for me to say, I don't want to live like that. I don't ever want to wonder where I'm going to go. I don't ever want to wonder by these things. So I took those messages that I seen, and those are my messages about money. Okay, and how do these messages affect how you behave around money and what you want for your future self and your financial life? When we hear some of these negative messages, we kind of don't see outside of that, right? So we have to start to decide for ourselves, what do I want for me? What do I want for Mytegia? Like, what do I want tomorrow when Mytegia wakes up? Do I want to be able to drive down to Dutch Brothers and not have to worry about it? Or am I going to go broke by going to Dutch Brothers? Okay, what are your thoughts and idea of why it's important to save? Why is it important?
I think it's important. Those savings, they could be a little bit freedom to be able to do it. But I think that me saving people is freedom because.
What's your thought on why it's important to save? Mhm.
That you can, you never know when it's gonna pay that. And it's gonna put you in full, that's gonna really, you know,
Mhm.
I think that's really important.
Mhm. And I think the pandemic was a very big rude awakening for everybody, right? When they shut everything down, it was like, okay, now you don't have a job. And then folks that, again, I'm going to go back to the scenario of tribal communities. They didn't have unemployment. They didn't have the access $700-900 that they were getting. There are folks that are out there that were on fixed income that were told that they need PPP. Prices skyrocketed. Back where I was at in Gallup, there, you try to go to the grocery store, there was nothing on the shelves. You try to buy tissue, you go to Walmart, we have one Walmart that is servicing 2 hours surrounding anywhere, the highest grossing Walmart in the nation. And there was no tissue, there was no Clorox, there was no Pine Sol, There was no meat, there was no bread. People were fighting each other to get what they needed. So they're driving to Albuquerque, Flagstaff, Farmington, wherever they could go to try to get what they needed. The pandemic was the rude awakening of why it's important to save, why it's important to have a loss reserve. And it could be for unforeseen expenses. It could be for an investment. It could be for, okay, you know, maybe you have a loved one that hit some hardship and they're like, hey, do you think that you could help me out with this? It feels good to have that peace of mind, right? Okay, fitness tip is emergency savings are a must. Financial planners recommend that you save at least 3 months worth of living expenses. And that's for single individuals. That's not for couples, okay? Couples, they say set aside 6 months worth of your living expenses only because the larger your family is, the larger your household sizes are, your expenses will tend to grow and it be more than when you're just single, but you're by yourself, you know that you could live off of bologna sandwiches for a week and you only need about $20, $30 versus if it's a larger family, you're needing way more, okay? My recommendation is that you save the amount of money you feel comfortable with. Take a quick assessment, sit down and say, okay, in a month, I spend about $2,000, $3,000. And in order for me to be comfortable, if something were to happen, I'm going to need 2-3 months worth of expenses. And what resources are out there to help us achieve our savings goals? How many of you guys know what individual development accounts are? Anybody? Individual development accounts are products that are put out there by nonprofit organizations and banks. So what you're going to do after we're done with the class today is you're going to get on Google and then you're going to research individual development accounts and nonprofits or banks in New Mexico that can help me. Prosperity Works is one of the main names I throw out there. They're a partner organization of ours. They're really good. What they have is a product called a 4-to-1 match. How many of you guys can say 4-to-1? So how many of you guys could say that you make above $56,000 a year? So every single one of you would fall under being in the area medium income limit then. What that means is that if you were to go to Prosperity Works and say, hey, through a financial literacy class today, I heard that you guys have individual development account products for people with low to lower income. That's me. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, Anya, I'm going to give you 2 years to save $4,000. And this is the better part. For every $1 that you put into a savings account with our program, we're going to give you $4. And the max amount that you can save is $4,000 within 2 years. So if they give you $4 for every $1 within the 2 years, how much money are they going to pay you to save your own money? $16,000 for you to save your own money. Doesn't that sound really good?
Yes.
That's really good, right? So there are programs out there that'll help you meet your savings goals. And the better part about it is before these individual development accounts were only put aside to help a first-time home buyer achieve a down payment. Now, Prosperity Works says, we're not going to go and say that that is what housing stability or stability for you financially looks like. So you could use that to pay off your debt. You could use it for a vehicle because sometimes sustainability means having a reliable vehicle for us to get to and from work, right? Getting to and from a hospital, getting to and from somewhere we need to go. Some of us are living in multi-generational homes where we have to share a vehicle in order to make our households work. And then the next one is your education. You could use that for your education. And then if not, and home ownership is something that you really want to achieve, then there's also that component. But I would highly recommend taking advantage of the fact that you do meet those requirements and say, hey, I really need to find out about an individual development account. That's your easiest step into what you're going to do for your savings goals, okay?
They just look at base salary, right? I mean, base wages.
Yes, base wages. Yeah, I would say area medium income limit. So what you're going to do as well is you're going to Google, what is Taos area medium income limit for, and I don't know, are you counting yourself as a 1-person household? Are you renting a home? It's just you. So if that's the case, area medium income for one individual. Typically it's anywhere from 50, depending on what county you're in, it could go from anywhere from 50 to 70. So
So somebody.
goes by counties.
Right? Start up to
Mhm.
work, or if you're
Mhm.
they could be in the staff.
Yes. If you're under the age of 18 and you could go to the local courthouse and you could prove yourself to be an emancipated minor, you can qualify for a lot of these programs that are out there. So if you're aging out of a foster care system or you need help, A lot of the times individual development accounts are out there to help. There are state and local tribal resources that are out there that help individuals. If you go to your local social services division, sometimes there's community service block grants that are out there that are able to help you achieve stability. Let's say that you need a deposit on an apartment and you're saying, hey, I'm going through a transition. If I don't get help for this, I'm not going to have a home. I'm going to be homeless. What they'll be able to do is say, okay, Mytegia, in that case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have you fill out an application. We're going to approve you to put your deposit down, pay 2 months of your rent, and help you with your deposits on your utilities. And then on top of that, we have a community service block grant that can help you if you're in the professional field. We'll give you an additional $700 more to help you pay for professional attire or your hygiene needs or whatever necessities you need. And then on top of that, they'll say, oh, and we have a LIHEAP program. The LIHEAP program can run through the state or it can run through your social service division, wherever you're at. If you're a part of a tribe, tribes have it as well. And that's for low income home energy assistance programs. So they can help you pay for your gas, your electric, your propane, whatever it is that you need assistance with to maintain your home in order for you to not have to worry about getting disconnected or being displaced. There are programs that are out there that will help you achieve that. Even workforce development, I think that they have some programs that are out there. There's certification programs that are out there. Once again, before we take too much time, what I will say is that if you're facing a specific situation and you feel like this is something that is speaking to you or about your unique situation, reach out to Southwest Native Assets Coalition. We'll have a housing counselor get in contact with you to discuss more of that for you, okay? So I just wanted to reflect more about the individual development accounts because that's one of the main products that's out there to help you achieve some sustainability and get you to your savings goals and catapult you to where you need to go. Because it gets exciting, right? There are some programs that are out there that have an 8-to-1 match. So that means for every $1, they'll give you $8, but they do have a cutoff. Prosperity Works. No, oh, you're gonna have to do your research. So that's, I'm not gonna give you the whole pie. This is where you have to do the research. Yes. Yes, and it's for everybody. It's not just tribal community members. It's across the board. It's any and everybody. And so even with go to your bank and ask them, do you guys have any incentives? What are your yield rates? If I want to transfer over an IDA account that I'm getting here pretty soon, and I wanted to get a certificate of deposit, what are your annual yield rates? Start to look up State of New Mexico Taos Community annual yield rates for a certificate of deposit. Continue to make your money grow for you. And then when you get your tax returns, because I know everybody that if you're low in income, medium income, you get a tax return. Don't go take it to Vegas or go on a party spree or whatnot. You're saving that. You're going to make your money work for you, okay? We're going to put it away into a certificate of deposit. You could even start to doing your investments to where you do your individual development or individual retirement accounts. So there's things that you could do. And those are things that we need to start talking about and getting into so that you have some stability on your own. All right. Credit is your ability to borrow money. This portion of it is called understanding credit. Anytime a bank, finance company, or business lends you any type of money and you agree to pay it back at a later date, you're using credit. And in most cases, there's a charge for borrowing money, either in the form of fees or interest or both. There are both advantages and disadvantages of using credit. It's very important for you all to understand this because now, again, like we talked about the Discover and Capital One merger, right? Excuse me, talking a lot just dries out my throat. So when a credit card company like that comes to you and they're saying, okay, Rose, I'm going to give you a credit card, but I want you to sign on the dotted line. How many of us have signed our agreement at Victoria's Secret or over at TJ Maxx, Ross, or any of the companies that we went to without looking at what the interest rate was? How many of us signed something? Right? I'm guilty of it. I did it at one point. I was young. I had 10 credit cards. I was about $17,000 in debt. And a lot of it was because I didn't know what the fixed interest rate was and an annual percentage rate. They could charge you both of those. So with a lot of these credit, yeah, fixed and annual. The state is allowing it. And that's how a lot of these predatory lenders that are out there are making up for their fees, their rates, and their charges that they're making is because they're going to charge you a convenience fee. They're going to charge you an application fee. They're going to charge you a processing fee. Any and everything that they could charge you for. And then you want to make a payment on you. Any of you guys ever called to make a payment on your debit card or credit card? And then they tell you, we're going to charge you $3.50, $7, $8 as a convenience fee to process your payment today. And then you're like, what, you're gonna charge me to pay you?
Are there any credit cards with low interest then?
Just a secured line of credit card with your bank. Credit union preferably. That's the only way I have ever told anybody to go. Credit companies are out there to make money. They're loaning you money.
Secured line-
Secured line of credit's your best bet. Capital One and Discover, they're making money. And even if they tell you, we're paying you to have your own money, you see all those ads with Samuel L. Jackson and everybody out there, they don't care. How many millions do you think they paid them to make that commercial? How are they making that money? Your interest fee. Stop spending the money. Let's get smart about our money using, okay? And then the advantages of using credit, there are some significant advantages. We're able to get out there and purchase a vehicle. We're able to get out there and purchase a home. There's things that we need to extend lines of credit for, and then there's things that we don't need to. Credit allows you to purchase large items that you might not have enough money to pay for, such as a house, a car, college education. Credit can be good for emergency situations. Credit's convenient. Using your credit card is always a good way to pay for things without having to carry large amounts of cash. Your monthly credit card statements provide you with proof and record keeping. Some credit card companies may offer protection against liability in the event that someone uses your card number or unauthorized purchases. Identity theft is on the rise. Please take the time to open up those apps for TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, because you can freeze your credit. So you could go into those apps. If you know you're not trying to apply for a home, a vehicle, or a credit card, or an apartment or anything, and nobody needs to be pulling your credit, freeze your credit. People are out there stealing identity left and right, and then all of a sudden they're getting told, yeah, Miss Yazzie, you can't purchase a brand new vehicle because you had a repo last month. What? What do you mean?
So you go into those apps and you freeze your credit?
Yes, you can go in and you could freeze your credit, or even if you see anything derogatory, you could dispute it from that app. There's things that you could do if you have a unique situation where you need more insight. Maybe that's happened to you. Reach out to us. We could discuss that in the private setting. Disadvantages of using credit. Credit costs money. There's an annual charge for spending any type of money. Application fees, again, annual percentage rates, interest rates. Credit can tempt you to spend more money than you could afford to repay. You're more likely to purchase items that you do not need. Lenders, employers, landlords, pretty much everybody's wanting a copy of your credit report nowadays, right? Okay, and if you're mismanaging your credit, that'll affect your ability to get additional credit in the future. It could affect the ability for you to get a job, rent an apartment, buy a home. And then when you make credit card purchases, you commit to using future income to repay that debt. And right now, what we're talking about is if we don't have stability and long-term stability with our jobs, that can be very detrimental to our credit, okay? And if you're mismanaging credit and unable to repay the lender, they'll repossess whatever it is that you financed. We see that a lot. You guys are wondering why you see those Rent-A-Center trucks that are driving around, and you guys go to Walmart, you see that repo truck hitching up someone's ride and taking off. That's what happens. So the objective in all of this is to understand how credit is affecting your financial life and learn ways to improve your credit. Anybody have any questions about anything we've gone over? You're good. A lot of information, right? A certificate of deposit is when you're going into a bank. They'll tell you that you can either do anywhere from 1,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 that you could put into a certificate of deposit. What you're doing is you're committing to putting that money into the bank and not touching it for 7 to 12 months. I don't suggest going over 12 months. The reason being is because you're going to get the highest yield at 12 months and under. Some of them will offer you 5%. Some will offer even 7%. There's some really good banks out there that offer up to 7%. And what they do is they pay you to hold your money. So that's how banks lend. A lot of folks will keep their money inside of those reserve accounts, and then the bank lends that money out. Then after 12 months, they know that they got to give it back to you, but they give it back to you with interest because they took your money, they loaned it to somebody and charged them 18% or 20% or 30%, depending on what their credit score was. And that is going to tell them that for 12 months, Anya's not going to touch this money she let us hold for her. So that's going to give us time to flip it, regenerate some profit from it, and then we're going to pay you for letting us use your money to lend out. Okay, so really good way to make extra money. Okay, key terms, creditor, that's the financial institution or business that is extending you the line of credit, such as Visa, MasterCard, car loans, retail stores. Credit bureau companies are the credit companies that collect information on consumer credit. which is again, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. Those are the only 3 credit bureaus that are out there. If you want to order a free copy of your credit report, you could do so at annualcreditreport.com. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, all consumers can obtain 1 free copy every 12 months of your credit report. If you don't have access to the internet, you could get a free copy by calling that phone number. Okay, how your score is calculated. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Your score is calculated from different information that's collected on your credit portfolio. That data can be grouped into 5 categories. A percentage in each category reflects how important each of the categories are. Payment history. It's very important to make your payments on time because this makes up for 35% of your score. If you miss a payment, we get lazy, like we were talking about earlier, and we just are like, $25 is too much money right now. I don't want to pay for my Amazon or my, any of my credit cards. I'm just going to wait till next month. And then you get hurt with you get hit with that 30-day late payment. That's going to drop your credit score. And then when you go to apply for a vehicle or another credit card, they're going to say, oh, you know what? We can't do anything for you right now. You have a 30-day late payment back in August of 2022. And you're like, that was 2 years ago. Well, that stays on your credit report for 7 years. So that could affect you for up to 7 years. Okay. So 35% of your payment history is made up by 35% of your score, is made up from your payment history. And they report any and everything. There's not any kind of credit company that's out there to date that I don't think that reports. They do installment accounts, public records, bankruptcies, judgments, liens, collections, delinquencies, recent past dues, a number of accounts paid agreed upon time. They'll report all of that, whether it's a small signature loan company, an in-house that you did, any and everything gets reported. Okay. Next is the amounts that you owe. That's 30%. So that we talked about that earlier. That makes up for 30% of your score. So let's say that you have a credit card for $3,000, you maxed it out, and then all of a sudden you're wondering why your score dropped about 70 points and we're only paying $25 a month. It's going to take you 25 years to pay that back if you keep paying that $25 a month and then not using it again. So make sure that you're paying an additional amount. If they tell you your credit card payment's $25, if you have $50, pay $50 and then don't use it again. Use it when you need it. Secured line of credit's really good at helping you with all of that. Length of history makes up for 15%. New credit's 10%. Types of credit 10% as well, okay? And then home buying pros and cons. How many of us are home buyers? Are looking to be first-time home buyers? Throw this information in there because asset building, owning a home can be a significant asset, providing equity and long-term financial stability for families. Stable housing, home ownership offers stability, security, and permanent belonging. It establishes roots in communities and building stronger ties to communities, equity and growth. Over time, your house keeps the value. So let's say that you do need $15,000. You're ready to do some upgrades to your home. You need a new water heater. Maybe you need to do some internal repairs and whatnot, and you want to get a home equity line of credit. The equity that you put into your home when you pay down the balance of the loan, the bank's able to extend you that line of credit, okay? Cost and autonomy. Homeownership gives homeowners greater control over their living environment and allows them to make modifications and improvements as you desire. How many of you know when you rent, they tell you, you can't paint the walls a different color. You can't go and put flowers on your roof. You can't go and put yourself a wood stove in the living room. Okay. And then lastly, pride of ownership. Owning a home can instill a sense of pride and accomplishment in enhancing your overall health, well-being, and self-esteem. Home buying cons, financial responsibility, including mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, maintenance. Failing to pay these obligations can lead to financial strain or even foreclosure, leading to negative impacts of your credit. Limited affordability. This is where we were talking about making sure that you have a decent paying job. You're not accruing too much lines of credit. Debt to income ratio. That's how they decide what your mortgage payment is going to be. A lot of the times banks want to make sure that you're under 30% of your whole income that you make before taxes is not going to bills. That's how they determine that, okay? So particularly low income have limited access to financing options, high housing costs. Right now, we're not doing too good at interest rates. Anything is like 5% to 7%. That's really high. Market volatility. Maintenance and repairs. How many of us are really good with maintenance and repairs? How many of us know that if we do home buying, we'll be able to do our own maintenance and repairs? Sometimes it's better to rent, right? Because if something breaks, you call the landlord, you're like, hey, the light thing won't work. The washer's making a grinding noise, I don't know. And you're able to call them, right? So I always tell everybody, some of us are professional renters and that's fine. And then there's some of us that want to be homeowners, but we already knew getting into homeownership, the maintenance and repairs came along with it. Water heaters are about $7,000. HVAC system goes out, that's $10,000. So there's pros and cons. Weigh your pros and cons and ask yourself, am I ready for this? Can I afford this?
And also document that because
Mhm.
it's taxes.
Yes. And then, let's see, location restrictions. So again, wherever you're buying, there's always going to be a higher cost to value, depending on where you're at. Are you going to live on the nicer side of town? Are you live on the quiet side? Are you going to go rural? Where are you going to go? It's all up to you, but property value, it goes back to that. Okay. So when you're shopping for a home and you realize that on the west side of Taos, it's about $100,000 less, you go to the higher portion of where the mountain is or where it's more scenic or inner city, it's 500,000. What do we want? Okay. And then resale challenges. Am I going to be able to resell the home later? Will it be viable? Okay. Asset protection, insurance policies. How many of us know about insurance? You need to have it, whether it's life insurance, auto insurance,
Renters.
renter's insurance, any and everything. You have to have asset protection. The reason being is because you go to Walmart, somebody backs up into you, you come out and your bumper's gone. Or maybe they ran into the side of the vehicle, your door's got to be replaced. Or you came home, windows busted. Or something happens to you and you leave a lot of bills. Insurance policies. So look into that, make sure that you have something. If you're with a credit union, a lot of the times they'll give you up to, I think it's 10 to 15,000 for free, just for being a credit union member. They'll send you a little notice, says, on behalf of First Financial Credit Union, we want to extend you a $10,000 policy as being a valued member with our,
I get that from you.
Yeah. yeah, same. So I sign it. I have that. And I have a few other policies that I have because I'm like, no, it's from the credit union. The credit union. I mean, and in it, when you read the fine print, let's say you have an accident and you chop off a finger, you lose a hand, they'll pay you out the whole policy. You have like a freak accident and something happens to you and you read the fine print on your policies and you're not able to work, they'll pay you out your policy. So there's things that they do have in there. A lot of times, one of the best things that I always tell everybody is Aflac doesn't ask questions. They like to reimburse people. You get with Aflac
Yeah.
for insurance, for healthcare or anything, something happens to you, you go to the hospital, you get seen, they're really good at reimbursing.
For your disability benefits and your app as to how much you're allowed to have assets, is that a consideration?
When you're paying for insurance, you don't immediately attain that unless something were to happen. So it's not considered an asset until it's actually yours. So let's say that you turn around and you have an insurance policy, you're only paying the premium. So they're not guaranteeing you that you have 100,000 in the bank. That's only in the event that something happens to where you get paid out for whatever that is. Okay. So you can always have insurance policies without that affecting you. Asset allocation, diversifying assets, which is what we were talking about as far as real estate, stocks, bonds, any and everything that you have. Let's start off with an IDA account. Let's be gradual. Individual development accounts, then we graduate to certificate of deposit, then we start doing stocks, then we do our retirement. We start getting into all of that, okay? Homestead exemptions, that applies to tribal communities. Retirement accounts, 401k. Let's see, estate planning, developing a comprehensive estate planning. I always tell everybody, if you do have any type of assets, make sure that you get with legal counsel. Make sure that you have something set into place in the event that something does happen to you. And you do want somebody to be able to say, okay, I don't want this to go back to the state. I don't want there to be a probate to where it's difficult for anybody to be able to say, okay, this is who I'm leaving this for. Because we never know what's going to happen. Okay, regular reviews and updates. Make sure that you're updating your information with the bank. Make sure you're updating your information with the post office. Make sure you're updating your information with any insurance policies that you